Welcome to the Grow Your Money podcast, where we're on a mission to change how we talk about money. Our fireside chats are the heart of our show, bringing the energy and excitement of in-person events straight to your ears. We aim to connect you with inspiring voices and stories that matter, sharing relatable experiences and insights that will transform your financial life. Everyone deserves access to practical financial knowledge, so we're making money conversations relatable by inviting guests from all walks of life to share their real-life experiences with money. But this isn't your typical money show. We look at the emotional, psychological, and cultural factors that shape our relationship with money. So hit subscribe and join us for another episode of the Grow Your Money podcast.
Hello, I am so happy to have you, Dean.
I'm happy
Very
to
good
be
to
here.
have
Thanks
you.
very much for having me.
Yes, it's awesome. We've done one of these before and liked it so much. We're doing it again. Welcome to the Grow Your Money podcast. Please, could you start by telling us a bit about who Dean is and what you do? Because it will lead right into what we're going to chat about this morning.
Okay, so I'm a lawyer, actually a solicitor and a barrister, which apparently is quite unusual still these days. Have been for 25 years now. I know, Tina, I don't look old enough, do I? But I
No,
have
you
been
don't.
doing this for 25 years. But people more commonly know me for being the dean on the radio because for the last 14 years, I've been here on LBC doing everything consumer. So I do a consumer show on a Sunday evening and pop up on various TV programs as well, advising people on their consumer rights, legal rights, commentating on the law, and also doing sometimes doing some politics shows as well. But it's not really my love, to be honest. So that's me.
Nice. So nice to meet you. One lawyer to another. My background is in law as well, corporate though, so not consumer, but it's interesting how you just have a lens of legal. When you're a lawyer, I think it just follows you everywhere, doesn't it? Everything you look at is through a legal lens. Um, so this is really cool because around Christmas time, which is when we are shooting this, a lot of things come up with buying presents and
Mm.
all sorts of things. So maybe you can dive right in and let us know a bit about some of the common consumer rights issues that arise during this season.
Money, money. Every day I say a prayer, I'm so damn lucky.
An immersive interactive experience with real conversations, practical tools, and what our events have come to be known for. The three F's: finance, food, and fun. So if you're ready to take control of your money, don't wait. Book your spot now and let's make 2025 your best year yet. See you there.
Money, money. Every day I say a prayer, I'm so damn.
Well, I think probably the number one issue I see in the festive season is, of course, deliveries,
Mhm.
because we all shop online now. I mean, of course, people go in store, but most people go online because you've got so many convenient platforms like Amazon and various other shopping platforms where it's just so easy to shop. And the issues that arise really are goods not turning up on time for Christmas is a very common one.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, my Christmas turkey turned up on Boxing Day is probably every year one of my most common queries I get on the LBC Consumer Hour. But
Yeah.
also those queries where people say the retailer says they delivered the goods, but they've not arrived. They've shown me a picture of my doorstep with the box there, but when I opened the door hours and hours later because I was out, it wasn't there, or
Mhm.
they've arrived damaged. And team, this is a big misconception actually, and let's dispel the myth because retailers will always tell you that it's basically your problem. We delivered, we put it on your doorstep. If it's not there, that's your problem. But actually, the law we've got here, which is called the Consumer Rights Act, it says something very, very different to that. And
Mhm.
the retailers like to think that it doesn't, but it does. And what it basically says is that unless you have agreed to have a delivery in a safe place, that's why we have that. And let me pause for a moment. Never, never, never agree for your deliveries to go in a safe place. Here's why: because the retailer has the responsibility for those goods if you don't choose the safe place option until they're literally in your hands.
Okay.
So that means that if they deliver on your doorstep whilst you're out, someone steals the goods or it starts raining and they get damaged, it's not your problem. Because the
Okay.
law says until they're in your physical possession, it's at the retailer's risk. And Tina, this is why, you've probably noticed, when couriers come these days, they take photos of
Yes.
you holding the goods. By the
Yes.
way, never allow them to do that. Make sure you put it on the floor. They can take photos of your feet if you like, but not your face. That's for
Okay.
scam reasons. But the reason they do that is that the only evidence that's good enough evidence to prove that something's come in your physical possession is a photograph with your door open. If they take a photograph with the door closed, that's not enough. Many retailers will tell you what it is, but it's not.
That is such good advice, and I am a culprit of that because I normally have the safe place bit, especially when you want goods urgently. You'll be like, leave it in a safe place. So never do that, and it's their responsibility until then. But Dean, it gets exasperating dealing with this type of retailers, who to contact, going back and forth with them. It can be
Does.
such a minefield. Do you have any top tips for that?
Tynah, you love talking about money, which means
Yep.
you're sometimes going to be talking about our flexible friend, our credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Look, everyone knows me. When I talk on the LBC Consumer Hour, the cardinal sin when you call me is if you tell me you paid with cash. Because when you pay with cash, there are no rights, there's no comeback, no redress,
Yep.
or no protections, I should say, if something goes wrong. So let's wind this back to credit cards.
Mm.
If you use a credit card and something goes wrong, you've got some natural protections. So if you've paid for something over £100, we've got something called Section 75. That means if it goes wrong, let's say you bought something and it's faulty, you've tried to get hold of the retailer, as you've just alluded to, that can be really difficult. And the
Mm-hmm.
retailer either says, no, we're not helping, i.e., we're going to flout the consumer laws, or they just don't answer your email or your phone call. You can contact your card provider, make what's called a Section 75 claim, and get your money back. So it's a really good natural protection. And we have a very similar protection if you use a debit card. That's called a chargeback scheme or a
Yes.
chargeback claim. And the only caveat to that is you must make that claim within 120 days of the date of purchase. But again, a really good thing to do if the retailer is ignoring your rights or ignoring your call or ignoring your emails. And by the way, if that didn't happen on a daily basis, I wouldn't do LBC every Sunday like I do, because it just does. It's so common.
That's a great tip. So credit card, if you can. If you don't have a credit card, debit card, never cash.
Never
Never ever.
cash, never a bank transfer either. And
Yes.
let's just pop in here now, a great tip. If someone asks you to pay via PayPal, often you find this on the likes of eBay and platforms where you're selling used goods, friends and family is a red flag. So if someone says to you, yeah, please pay me on the friends and family option of PayPal, never do that, because it often means it's a scam.
Okay. So always select the invoice. They need to send you an invoice, and you need to be paying an
Absolutely.
invoice,
Yeah,
never friends and family, which makes sense because that assumes that you're then transferring money to someone else and you don't have the same protections for retail, right?
correct.
Nice. That's really good. And then that has led me to think about the whole thing around travel disruptions. Because again, I'm in Scotland, so you'll take a ScotRail train. It will be delayed, or you'll go halfway through your journey. It will stop, especially towards this season. So many cancellations. And then they tell you can get your money back. They don't get back to you. I'm assuming that the same laws would kick in. Go to your bank and tell them this train was missed.
Yeah. Absolutely the
Fantastic.
same laws. I mean, the other thing to add with trains as well is that we've now got with trains something called automatic delay compensation.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite a good scheme. It basically means if your train's delayed, automatically most train operators will give you compensation. There's different amounts they'll give you, but it will come into your account automatically. So it's worth remembering that as well. But it's also worth remembering, and I always say this, Tynah, as a consumer, you are entitled to get what it says on the tin. Not
Mm-hmm.
always a tin, but imagine it is a tin. With a
Yes.
train, if you buy a ticket to travel, you're entitled to travel on that train. And that means if the train is cancelled, of course, you're entitled to a refund. It's
Mm-hmm.
always worth remembering that. Very simple, but important principle.
Well, one complexity that I had someone come to me with was they had missed their train. They went to do that automatic compensation scheme and they were asked to send back their tickets.
Mm.
Well, they didn't have the tickets to send back. So they gave up on it and they were talking about 300, 400 quid. And I thought, no, that should not be right. You didn't travel on the train. They shouldn't expect you to. There has to be a way around it.
Well, there is a way around it. I mean, because under our English law, with English consumer laws, the principle is actually if you can prove purchase. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look at retail, many people believe that, oh, I've lost my receipt, I can't take goods back. Actually, the law says you must be able to prove purchase. So a credit card statement, a bank statement.
Okay.
Again, if you pay by cash, you're in trouble here. But if
Mm-hmm.
you've used something which just leaves a paper trail, then you've got proof of purchase. The same applies to trains. So if you can prove you made that purchase, then you should be okay. But this day and age, Tina, there are many apps where you can buy train tickets, the official apps. The advantage of that is if you buy via the app, you will automatically get that refund via the app. So it's a good reason to use apps for the
Mm-hmm.
likes of train purchases.
Very interesting. And then you find people who think they should go online. So ideally use the app if you can. You're
Yeah.
quite right, because if you have the app, actually, it gives you all your travel details. It will show the disruptions. It's easy for you to track everything in there.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's very great advice. Now, I come on to the next question. It's slightly past Black Friday, but one we need to also think about. What advice do you have for people who are looking to take advantage of Black Friday or holiday sales, so Boxing Day sales, without falling for the misleading deals? Because everyone waits for Black Friday. Are they really deals? And what are your tips on that?
It's the $1 million question. I mean, look, Black Friday is called Black Friday because it used to be an event that happened on one day, on a
Mm-hmm.
Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Black Friday because it was a day when the retailers got back into profit. They came out of the red and into the black into profit because they were selling so much. Black Friday ought to now be called Black 3 months because these deals, they go on for months.
Yep.
Now, the consumer advocate witch every year does a study of the deals.
Mm-hmm.
And most years, I always look at this, most years they find, oh, a percentage of the deals in Black Friday, you could have got exactly the same deal before Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
This year, very interestingly, every single sample they took, they found the same deal at one other point during this year.
Oh.
And that tells you that actually it's not so good. So people think that, oh, it's Black Friday event or it's Boxing Day event, we're going to get a great deal. It's just not true. It's not true because the retailers are trying to lure you in every day of the week. They're
Yeah.
always doing deals. So I'm always telling people now, I don't profess to be a money saving expert, and I don't want to be a money saving expert. There's enough of them. But what I will say is, don't just think that this is going to be a great deal. People impulse buy during the Black Friday event. They do it because they think, oh, I'm going to get a great deal, I'll buy now. They buy things they don't need because they're almost psychologically forced into it. But shop around because we've got so many online platforms now that it's easy to shop around. And every time I tell people to do this, Tina, they come back and say, you were right. I found a good deal somewhere else. And that should lead me on to the second part that you said, scams, because you mentioned about, am I going to get a good deal or not? There's
Mm-hmm.
many bad deals you can get because now lots of people during this event are scammed. They
Yeah.
go onto websites, they believe it's a real website, they believe it's the genuine retailer that it says on the top of the website, and it's not. So you have to be so careful now because this is, or it was, I should say, Black Friday, the number one event for fraudsters. This
Mm-hmm.
is their Christmas. Well, they go out and they get lots of your money as consumers because they know people are on the hunt for a deal. And if they dangle the carrot in front of you, you're going to take it. And again, if you pay by your credit card, it's another good reason to do that, actually, because if you're scammed, you can do something about it.
Yes, because you have the protection from your bank as well when it's a fraud involved. That's a good point. So even when you're in the shop, even typically buy one get one free doesn't usually work out to buy one get one free. It's better for you to shop around. The
Yeah.
other thing I like to say to people is you're actually better off trying to coupon, get a percentage off a product and things like that than wait for things like Black Friday. What about Boxing Day sales? Would you say the same about Boxing Day sales as well? Or
I
do you
think
find that it's better?
I think the starting point is a similar issue, but where it's different is that often retailers are discounting things they've not sold over the Christmas period.
Yes.
So sometimes you find they are unique, those deals,
Mm-hmm.
more unique than the Black Friday deals. But the same thing applies. You've got to shop around to see, could I get this somewhere else cheaper?
Yeah.
We've got laws in place that say that retailers can't mislead you. They can't make you believe that this is a great deal that you can't get other times. But actually, this law, it just is not fit for purpose still. They still can get around that issue. So it's much better that you're savvy as a consumer and you do your due diligence. You shop around to see, can I get a better deal elsewhere? By the way, Tina, let me tell you this, because this is something I've been telling people to do. Retailers absolutely hate this. If you go to a retailer and say, I'm thinking of buying whatever it is because you're selling it and it's a good deal, can you just write down for me and confirm that I won't get this cheaper from you in 2 or 3 months' time? Because what I also see every year is that people buy things in the sales, whether it's Black Friday, Boxing Day sales, whatever it is, and then they find that later on the retailer actually reduces the price even more. And they come to me and say, can I do anything about it? And the answer is no. But if you've asked the retailer the question, will this be discounted even more? If they say no, then you can demand the difference. If they're
Interesting.
sensible, they'll say, I don't know. But it's worth asking.
And actually, some sites tell you, some sites have a caveat that says, prices may go up and down, and some say
They
this
do.
price will be held. That's such a good shout. Okay. What about gift cards? Because at Christmas, we tend to give gift cards as presents. I personally prefer to go out or give a note and then go out and shop on Boxing Day. That's a tip I find. And then the other thing I do as well is things like Christmas trees and decorations. Those are typically cheaper. If you find a good one, though, that's the
Yeah.
thing. But what about gift cards? When you've given gift cards, what dynamic does that create for me, the gifter, and you, the receiver?
Okay, the first thing I say about gift cards, don't do it.
Oh, really?
Gift cards can be a disaster. The problem you've got with a gift card, if you buy one for somebody and it's for one retailer, one brand, and that brand goes out of business, you have literally lost your money. The gift card becomes completely worthless. You may as well put it in the bin. And that's a problem with gift cards. And we've seen many people think, oh, I'm going to buy a gift card for this big, big retailer on the high street because they won't go out of business. But we now know that's not true because many big brands do go pop on the high street. We're going to see more going pop in 2025 onwards, which means that gift cards can be a very dangerous thing. You can end up buying something which becomes worthless. If you really feel you need to buy a gift card for someone because they really want one, buy one with multiple brands on it, where you can shop in multiple shops, because the chances of all of those brands going pop is probably non-existent.
Yeah.
But of course, if it's one, then it becomes a massive, massive risk. But the other thing I say to people who are recipients of gift cards, look out for the terms and conditions. Most of them do have a date by which you have to use them. People don't recognize that or realize that. And often I get the question, I've got a gift card and it went out of date 3 months ago. Can I force the retailer to now accept it? Answer, no. So you have to be careful with these gift cards. And as I say, Tina, I normally tell people to stay clear of gift cards. But if you really have to buy one, the multiple brand ones is the only way to go.
Very interesting. So instead of gift cards, give cash.
You could give cash. Of course, it's not going to go out of fashion. You're still going to be able to use it. If you use it, you're not going to be protected, like I always tell people.
Yeah.
But of course, if you go and buy something small with it, then maybe it's a good thing. Or
Yeah.
maybe you put it in the bank and then you use your credit card.
Exactly. So everything should lead back to the credit card where possible.
It all leads back to a credit card. There's no doubt about that.
Do you know, that's one of the things when I moved to the UK, I found it very odd that everyone was pushing me down this credit card route, because I was like, I have got cash, guys. I don't need to be borrowing. But when you understand the nuances and all the protections that come with it, and the fact that you have the 51 days most times, that within which you can pay at 0%, it actually makes a lot of sense. And it's getting your head around the fact that as long as you pay it off in time, you have good habits around it, it's actually the safest way to transact retail wise.
It is. Do you know what amazes me with it? We've had the law in relation to protections with credit cards, the Section 75 protection, since 1974.
Wow.
And even though people like me bash on about it all the time, if I went out into the high street now and I asked 100 people, have you ever heard of Section 75? Or would you get any protections if you purchase with a credit card? At least 60% wouldn't know the answer.
That's true.
It's amazing.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Okay. Now, Dean, what are your top tips for avoiding scams? Because we did talk about that. There's a lot of scams that come up. especially around Christmas time? How do we avoid them, and how do we make sure, especially with shopping online, they're literally, I was buying something yesterday and they said it's cheaper for you. I was just shopping around. Ideally, I wanted to go into the store, and the website said this is 20% cheaper online. So, what are your top tips for avoiding scams and being safe, you know?
I think the first one and the number one tip is assume that every communication you receive from someone you don't know, whether it's a text message, an email, or every website you look at online, is a scam. So if you go with that mindset, then
Mm-hmm.
you're on alert. And then keep that in mind until you've checked if it's correct. So if you get one of those text messages that says we're HMRC or we've got a great deal for you this Christmas, assume it's a scam. Go and find out yourself if it's not. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is obviously to look out for scam alerts. Not enough people do that. Now our banks have to tell us about different scams that they are aware of. It's the regulations now, they have to do that. So take notice of them, read them, tell other people about them, because forearmed is forewarned, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, we mentioned the whole credit card thing already. If you're not sure, make sure you use a credit card because it gives you that protection.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would, as I've said many times on this podcast today, I would always use a credit or debit card because it gives you massive protection in whatever you do. And I think lastly, remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. It's not saying, of course, I made up. It's a very common saying, but it's
Mm-hmm.
very common for a reason because it's a really good piece of sound advice. So when you see a great deal, it might be a great deal, but it probably isn't. And I think that leads me on to when you're shopping online. I've already said assume that websites are not genuine, they're a scam. Even if they look like the website you wanted to go to, they may be a rip-off.
Mm-hmm.
AI now, artificial intelligence, enables fraudsters in seconds to clone a website. And I mean seconds, I've seen it done. It's
Yeah.
truly remarkable. There's a few little things that are telltale signs. If you look at the URL, the website address on your browser, if
Mm-hmm.
there's a padlock in the top left-hand corner, then that tells you it could be genuine. If there's no typos in it, then that's something better because these are all red flags, really.
Mm-hmm.
If there's contact details on there, they look genuine, then it could be genuine. These are all worth checking. Tynah, the problem is you can spend more time trying to look to see if something's fake than you are actually shopping. And people often just think, I can't bother with that. I'll just pay now. And it brings me back again, as you said, all roads come back to
Mm-hmm.
the credit card. That's why it's such a good tool.
That's so true. Um, and I suppose if you, because now we've talked about credit cards, we've talked about using your debit card as the fallback if you can't. But then, what about buy now, pay later, Dean? Is that because that's really credit? You're taking out credit,
You
and
are.
so someone may think, well, I don't have a credit card, and that's the maximum protection. Maybe I should go for the buy now, pay later.
So first of all, with buy now, pay later, you do not get those protections. At the
Mm-hmm.
moment, in relation to Section 75, at the moment, this is a totally unregulated sector, which is never good. It's a bit like payday loans.
Mm-hmm.
Unregulated was not a good thing.
Yes.
And the other problem with buy now, pay later, it's too easy. It's too easy to take out the credit and think, oh, I'll worry about it later. The sort of things that you'd be telling people about, budgeting, not overspending, making sure you can afford what you're buying. Buy now, pay later does psychologically push people into thinking, I'll worry about this tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and they've now got a big financial problem.
Mm-hmm.
And also, people don't tend to view it as debt. And this is the biggest problem with buy now,
Yes.
pay later. They don't think it's debt. It is
Yes.
debt. But there's some good news, Tynah, because this is a sector that is going to be regulated.
That's
It's
fantastic.
been decided, we're heading there. And one of the really good changes we're going to see when these new regulations come in is that you will have protection under Section 75 on buy now, pay later when they kick in. But right now, if you don't have to do it, don't do it.
Absolutely. Plus, also, I totally agree with you. It is debt, and that's the biggest thing. People don't think it's debt. It is
Yeah.
debt. Right now, it's not protecting you anyway, but also it heavily skews your budgeting ability and skills. It's also typically way more expensive than your credit card will be if you don't pay on time
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So, no advantage from this conclusion then. Cool. So on that topic then, Dean, what are your top tips for how people could keep to a budget during this time?
Look, if I was wondering about how to keep to a budget, I would be asking you, Tynah, that question because that's obviously more your bag than mine.
Yep.
I mean, all I can tell you is what I tell my children that are in university, which is pretty much probably what I learned from you actually. About I think your 70-20 rule,
Yes.
70-20-10 rule, I think it was, which I think is really, really good. But I think that all I would say is it's a time of year when it's really easy to spend lots of money and think, I'll worry about it next year. Of course, next year is days away, or a couple of weeks away.
Mhm.
And when you say the words next year, it feels like it's a long way away. And often when people speak to me in January about problems, they're more legal problems. But if it's ever money orientated, it always comes back to, I spent too much money in December. I got into a buy now, pay later scenario or something like that. And I thought, oh, I'll worry about it next year, not thinking that actually next year was a couple of weeks away.
Mhm.
So I think the only tip I would have is just be mindful that whatever you're spending today really is tomorrow's problem, which is
Yes.
not next year. It's not, 6 months time. It literally could be tomorrow. And that's the only thing I always tell people in relation to money this time of year. Other than that, I leave that advice to you.
Yeah, I always like to hear people's tips because you'll find the coolest advice from other people. But I agree, the 70-10-10-10 thing. I think the one for me that I normally say is don't spend on one day what you should the whole year. So
Yeah.
if you've not been planning for it the whole year, do not take the shame. I think we try to keep up with the Joneses too much, and it's just for a day and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And there's ways to go around it. Give each other all you notes for presents to buy, at Boxing Day and that sort of thing. And alternative gifts. We're just such a consumer economy. There's other things you can do to spend quality time together and to be different and more memorable, especially for younger children. You'll be surprised how many people go out and take out a credit card to buy the most ridiculous amount of toys that are not going to be used a year later. So
Yeah.
I always say that another top one that I'll leave the listeners with is, if you know you want to spend £500 at Christmas, sell £500 worth of things out of your house. Find things that in your house that you need to sell, and make sure that money is not leaving you unplugged. So that's a key one that I always
That's a good
think
idea.
about as
I like
well.
that.
Yeah. Dean, it's been wonderful having you.
Thank you very
I
much.
think it's been so many tips there, so much learning even for myself. I'm away to deal with the trains, and hopefully we do this again together next time.
We will. Thank you very much. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Your Money podcast. If you're looking to take actionable steps toward achieving your financial goals, visit MoneyMatiX.com. That is money, MATIX.com. And join our free Grow Your Money Challenge. Let's unite in the movement to inspire people to talk about money. Thank you for being a part of our community. We'll see you in the next episode.